With National Native News, I'm Art Hughes in for Antonio Gonzalez. Several states are reporting record early voting turnout for the midterm elections. CNBC notes that at least 35 million people nationwide had cast their votes before Election Day. The heavy early voting signals the potential for a record turnout for the midterm election, which typically attracts fewer voters than presidential elections. In addition to the congressional and state elections, several tribes are also holding elections this month, including the Navajo Nation, which will choose a new president and vice president and several seats on the Tribal Council, the Board of Election Supervisors, and the Navajo Nation Board of Education. The Navajo Nation is appealing its federal case against Wells Fargo Bank. The Farmington Daily News reports the tribe is also filing a separate lawsuit in tribal court. Navajo officials filed a lawsuit a year ago saying Wells Fargo used unfair and deceptive practices and says the bank opened accounts without members' authorization. A judge dismissed that claim in September because the bank had already settled similar claims with federal prosecutors. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has again apologized to some First Nations in British Columbia for the hangings of 6 chiefs more than 150 years ago. As Dan Karpenchuk reports, this time Trudeau went to the community to speak to people directly.
Hundreds of Chilcotin First Nations members in British Columbia's interior had gathered to hear the Prime Minister. Trudeau told them that colonial government officials were wrong when they invited chiefs for peacekeeping talks, then arrested them, tried them, and hanged them as criminals.
Last spring, I stood in the House of Commons to recognize the actions past governments committed against your people, and to express the Government of Canada's profound regret for this injustice. But it was also essential to deliver this important message here, before you, on your land. It is my privilege to be here today to honor the courage and sacrifice shown by the Chilcotin chiefs 154 years ago.
Trudeau said the chiefs have now been fully exonerated. He said they acted as members of an independent nation defending their land.
The chiefs acted in accordance with their own laws to defend their territory, their people, and their way of life. They acted as leaders of a proud and independent nation facing a threat from another nation.
Trudeau said his government profoundly regrets the mistakes. He called the treatment of the chiefs a betrayal of trust and an injustice. One chief said the apology brought an end to a difficult journey. 20 people on both sides were killed in what's been called the Chilcotin War. For National Native News, I'm Dan Karpenchuk.
The national governing body for the sport of lacrosse is adopting a Native American Advisory Council. U.S. Lacrosse Magazine reports the action comes after a South Dakota youth league expelled 3 mostly Native lacrosse teams last April. The new chair of the council, Andrew Lee, tells the magazine the panel's aim fits in with the U.S. Lacrosse Organization's goal to reach new populations. He says the new council will work to expand opportunities for Native players and teams and also educate others on the importance of Native involvement in the game that has strong Native roots. Leaders for the Native teams complained the South Dakota League was doing little to address overt racism on and off the field. The league expelled the teams for a variety of reasons, including using uncertified coaches and hostility toward other players and administrators. Fans of a new Nintendo video game say a version contains an animated figure offensive to Native Americans. The website Motherboard reports the Japanese version of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate includes a character that switches into a form wearing a loincloth and feather and carrying a torch. It doesn't appear in other versions of the game. With National Native News, I'm Art Hughes.
National Native News is produced at the Annenberg National Native Voice Studios by Kawanak Broadcast Corporation. Funding is by Odawi Law Group, provider of Indian law solutions, and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, with support from the Public Radio Satellite System.
Support by Ramona Farms, offering wholesome and delicious foods from our heirloom crops as our contribution to a better diet for the benefit of all people. We are honored to share our centuries-old farming and culinary traditions online at ramonafarms.com.
PBS wants to hear from you. Are you watching the 4-part series Native America on your local PBS station? PBS wants to know how you continue your cultural knowledge and tradition. PBS is collecting stories like yours at pbs.org/Native Voices.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.